Speaking of hearing things, it's going to be one of those. Speaking of hearing things in wrestling, starting at the top of the program. It was just immediately after we recorded practically last week, that they put the news out from Global Force Wrestling that Jeff Jarrett was taking a leave of absence, and immediately the internet blew up. If I ran a wrestling company, I would love for my in-ring product to get as much time and attention and energy and effort from everybody as speculation and reportage and rumor and innuendo about the backstage or the personal issues involved in TNA/Impact/Global Force. It would be great that the product actually, if any product got that much publicity, it might do well. But anyway, we were talking about this before we went on the air, Brian. You hear things. I started working for Jeff's grandmother 41 years ago. I started working for his father 35 years ago. I've known Jeff since he was fucking 12. And I was not only around him for a week straight at the Global Force tapings from 1 o'clock in the afternoon to one day I got out early. One day I was there till midnight and everywhere in between for a week. And there was no issue and nothing wrong. And everything, as I mentioned on the show, was a pleasant experience all the way around for me, besides the heat down there and the humidity. Can't do anything about that. And I've worked with Jeff in the WWF, all the way back to Memphis in the early 90s, WWF. TNA the first time, the Global Force house shows that he did, convention, whatever. And I've never had an issue with him, as I've mentioned, except for his choice in people to hire in one specific occasion for his wrestling company. I've never had an issue with Jeff or a disagreement or a controversy or whatever. And I saw no reason for anybody to be alarmed. But then by the same token, you hear stories, and a lot of them are secondhand, such as Robert Fuller crawling out through the hole in the wall. You tend to say, okay, it's secondhand or take it with a grain of salt or whatever, especially in the wrestling business. But then you also hear stories from people that you do trust that are firsthand, that were there and saw something. So there have been issues. I'm not defending the guy to say there haven't been issues. I'm defending the guy to say that I can't personally say I've ever seen any. However, there are issues because people that have been there have said so, and he's taken time off. And I just hope that above the wrestling business and running a wrestling promotion or whatever, that he just figures out what it took me about 30 years to realize, that personal life is more important than the wrestling business, and address whatever and come back. Maybe, my old saying, how can I miss you if you won't go away? I've found that you cannot miss the wrestling business in some cases until you go away from it for a little while, and that may help your personal life. So anyway, I wish him all the best. But I can tell you from personal experience that running or promoting or booking or being responsible for in some major way a wrestling company will crack you up in some form or fashion. I'm not saying he's ready for a rubber room at the Puzzle Factory. I about was. A couple of times, several. I've run several companies. I'm saying that at some point, anybody who's in that position, the stress and the pressure and the frustration and the hours that it takes to do it right, wrong, or indifferent, and the aggravation. And did I mention the aggravation? And then there's the aggravation that just daily, hourly, that you will have issues if you do it for so long and Jeff, once again, immediately from Impact started working on Global Force Wrestling and blah, blah, blah. And he's been working and meeting with people and doing stuff for years to get these things established. And I can tell you, once again, just people thought I was cranky at the Smoky Mountain Wrestling TV tapings. And I just, as I was looking over some of my old schedules for a column, I realized that at no point when Smoky Mountain Wrestling taped television And I was not only the lead heel manager, but also the booker and the person, basically wrestling producer backstage for the show. And we taped 4 hours of TV in a night. So that's a month's worth of TV in one night, leaving holes for shit that hadn't happened yet, etc. And I was doing that. I figured out that at no Smoky Mountain Wrestling TV taping I was ever at, had I had more than 4 hours sleep in the previous 36 hours. When I got there and got started with it, right? No matter what your budget, no matter what talent is available to you or not available, no matter what level that you're at, if you're running a wrestling company, sooner or later, you know, you need to get away from it. So I wish Jeff the best. And as far as the doom and gloom again, and you know, and that was a rib, right? It's like, well, Cornette shows up there on the internet. The people that, you know, the insignificant hoi polloi people that don't like me are like, well, Cornette shows up and already there's turmoil. Well, like Davey Boy said, I had nothing to do with it. I wasn't even there. It was Owen. But no, as far as a couple of, I want to clarify my status with the company. Just because one person leaves, I'm not going to, of his own volition, you know, agreeable. I'm not going to take my ball and go home, nor is my life's mission hinging on retiring with Global Force Wrestling. I think there's a happy medium in between. I saw one internet report that said Cornette's future in jeopardy, right? Well, if they change the creative team and, you know, Jeff Jarrett's always been Cornette's been a Jeff Jarrett guy. If they change the creative team, they might get away from the authority figures and blah, blah, blah. So my future's in jeopardy. Ladies and gentlemen, I can assure you, my future is not in jeopardy. First, I mentioned last week that I was going to be at Bound for Glory, November 5th, live on pay-per-view. Because that early that morning, we taped the episode, the office just sent me a graphic. It said Jim Cornette, Bound for Glory, November 5th. Please share this. So I figured, okay, it's not a secret, so I can go ahead and start talking about it. But one of the things that was misconstrued from last week that I said was people thought I said I wasn't going to be at the TV tapings afterward. What I said was I was not able to be in Florida 6 days in a row in November like I was this past time, and so that I would be at Bound for Glory, and we were talking about the TV tapings afterwards to figure out what what made the porridge not too hot and not too cold, how long I could stay and get things done. Having said that, I've mentioned from the start, so I hope nobody will start a GoFundMe page for me or anything if I'm going to be unemployed here soon. Brian, I know, you know, you've offered to help out just, you know, with the groceries if this thing goes south.
I'm there for you.
Well, I know you are, and you're a kind man, and you use your left and right turn indicator. You're a fine individual. But at any rate, I'm not trying to come off sounding like I don't care, because you know, this company has had a lot of issues, but they've also got a lot of good talent, and they've also got a lot of potential with their TV around the world, even if their American television isn't very strong right now. So I'm not wishing ill on them, but I've mentioned that I wasn't going to be doing long-term, full-time work for anybody just because I'm too fucking old and I'm cranky and I don't like to be away from home for a while, for long. But if they desire me to come back as I did before and handle some specific issues, which I handled the world title situation and a couple of the departing talents or whatever, then I'm happy to do that and help all the other people that I like there as well, because they are a hardworking crew. Or if they go in a different direction and decide that my consultation services are no longer required by corporate, then we will go our merry ways also, because it was just something I was doing to attempt to help polish up the television show as far as my segments in it and address some issues that I'd been asked to address. So everybody's fine either way. I just want to get that out there. So for fuck's sake, it was like, oh God, he's going to blow up again.
I have to ask you. So I don't know, something like, 11, 12 years ago, whatever it was, you were sitting around not bothering anyone, and you got asked by Jeff Jarrett to come into TNA, and you were there, and it was Jeff, and it was Dutch, and it was Jeff's team, and then slowly but surely the brain trust there got rid of Jeff, and then got rid of each one on his team, including you. All these years later, you come back, Jeff's there, and there's Dutch, and there's Jeff's team, and next thing you know, Jeff's gone. I mean, when this first happens, what are you thinking? How did you find out? And do you see the humor in the fact that this happened so quickly this time compared to the last time?
He keeps bringing me in and then leaving me to my own devices. I don't, no, I found out like everybody else did when I clicked on the internet and saw the headline because it was not necessary for them to consult me in this decision. And I was perplexed. Let's put it that way. I do see the humor in the situation that possibly maybe it's some kind of geophysical, geothermal law of nature that for some reason, even though we don't dislike each other, we can't be around in the same place for the same time. One propels the other one away or something. But no, once again, I want Jeff to take some time. And as Ernie Ladd said, your brain is like a sponge. When it absorbs all the knowledge it can, you must wring it out. Whatever is at the root of his stress and issues, he needs to, fucking sit back and relax for a while and worry about Jeff and Karen and the kids instead of the wrestling business. Would be my suggestion, just because I find it what was it I said one time? I said either you're crazy, so you get in the wrestling business, or you get in the wrestling business and the crazy people in it drive you crazy. But one way or another, you end up being crazy. And so, but I do. And also, we've taped a lot of television so far, and there are some good matches and segments coming up. And I wish that the doom and gloom from the drama from The Office over a variety of issues over a period of time wouldn't overshadow the fact that I think John Hennigan, he's Johnny Impact on Pop TV, but he's Johnny Hennigan in my heart because I've known him since when. Johnny Impact is a money ball player, and I'm impressed with Eli Drake, even though he's given me all kinds of headaches. And Chris Adonis is a guy who deserves a chance. And that's, there's going to be some things on the television program upcoming in the weeks to come on Impact Wrestling on Pop that people aren't going to like, but I think there are things that people are also going to like. There were things I didn't like, but there was also things that I thought were very good from guys like this and a few of the other guys down there that, that can be money ball players. And I mentioned James Storm and Eddie Edwards, who both I've had history with. So I think, give those guys a chance, even if you're kind of fucking past losing your religion on all the drama in The Office. And hopefully with whatever occurs in the ring, it will take people's mind off these things.
Wouldn't it be funny if they did something crazy, like replace Jeff Jarrett with Jim Herd or something? Just
well, now in that case, erase what I just said about I'm not going to fucking flip out now. I can assure you there's a couple people that will not be there as long as I'm there. Elsewise, I'll just not be there, and they will, one or the other. And he would be one of them. But I don't think he's still alive. Herd, huh?
He is still alive. I think he had a medical issue a few years back. I don't remember what it was, but one of the lasting memories,
liver transplant.
Maybe a heart transplant. I don't know. I'm just guessing with organs now. If he had a heart
transplant, he'd had to have one to donate.
One of my lasting memories of Jim Herd is when he was on Wrestling Observer Live, when it was on IATA, the Bob Meyerowitz internet radio station. And Jim Herd is on there, and he gets along great with Dave, and he seems very happy. And every caller is just like, "Are you an idiot? How did you let Ric Flair go? How could you have done that?" And he's like, "Well, if I knew now and I knew that," just every caller was killing him about every single decision he made.
Word. This was okay. It came in 89. That's what, my God, 28 years ago. He looked like he was fucking 65 then. How old is he?
Well, I think he's someone who looked older than he was, because I can't imagine him ever looking young.
Good fucking God. Well, anyway, hopefully he'll rot and turn to dust soon. But in the meantime, while we're waiting, here's a book recommendation for you. While we're waiting for Jim Herd to rot and turn to dust, You got to read the new book, Mad Dog, by, and I'm going to butcher his name. I do it there because I can't do the French pronunciation, but Bertrand Ebert and Pat LaPrade.